being exempt from criticism is not a blessing, but it is a curse. And I think that I think especially with the current media, it's that any form of criticism against that perspective or this or that, it makes you wrong. And I've discussed a few times the idea of the death of the devil's advocate, where we can't actually argue things from different perspectives, trying to paint a more complete picture. And that's something that I've seen happen more and more, is people refusing to argue. I have a friend, Tyler Latuila, and I think his episode's dropping tomorrow, but we talked a lot about that. And what he does with some of his friends is they'll just pick a topic and then say they flip a coin and they decide who's going to argue what side. And I think that's something that so few people are able to do, which I think that is inherently bad, because if you can't argue the opposite side, then kind of as you've been talking about, then you've been completely consumed by this voice and you're parroting something without knowing what the other side is, besides hearing the arguments from the other side from someone that you're arguing with is not the most productive way to approach a situation or approach a discussion. The way that I think about it is, if I have an opinion about something, I'll tend to actually read as much as I can to disconfirm my bias. And then I'll go to the areas that I think that I'll agree with from the get-go.
I like that. Yeah, I mean, dude, the echo chamber is dangerous. That's just kind of where we are right now, is in a society and a collective, especially anyone on Facebook or Instagram. They're just spoon-fed what they want to hear. Like I said, I'm not a Republican, I'm not a Democrat, but for a while I was like looking up stuff on Trump, and then like Instagram would just give me like all it was like conservative like pages and stuff like that. And I would like flip through it and I was just like, no, man, I don't want this. Like, no. But that's what happens to like most of us. It's just like whatever it is, like that's all we see. We only see like the side that we want to see, that we want to know is right. And then someone else talks to us, and when I talk to my parents, they're just like, oh, that's impossible. That's a lie. That would never happen. I was talking to a friend on the team. He was like, New York Times, that's a reputable like newspaper. They would never lie. And I'm just like, oh man, like I got news for you. Like everything can be manipulated. But man, I love that. I think that's where we need to go. It's like see both sides of it, because also too, we're going to get played by our emotions, right? We're so easily played by our emotions. We're wanting to feel like we're virtuous. You know, we're more virtuous because I got this shot. I'm more virtuous because I have this sign in my window. I'm more virtuous because I voted on this. I'm more virtuous because I voted for this person, or I went to that rally. And it's just like, stop. Like, it's a lie. It's like, be virtuous with like your consciousness or like the daily actions that you do. But like being attached to an idea, a politician, like that's not where we need to be. We need to be able to think critically and, like you said, explore both sides, be curious about both sides, rather than being so like confident and arrogant on one side where, you know, you can't talk to people. They just shut down. You have to use tricks where it's like verbal like tricks where it's like, oh, it seems, or like, correct me if I'm wrong, because if you try and say anything else, they're like, no, that's not right. No, I watched Fox News and they said this. I watched CBS and they said that. And it's just like, oh man, like, let's be curious on both sides. Like, let's have some discernment rather than just being like vulnerable to conditioning.